Welcome. My name is David Meleney. I'm a product manager here at SnapLogic, and I am pleased to introduce Shaun from Cooperative Benefits Group. He's going to tell us how integrating with SnapLogic accelerated their efforts to automate their business process with a nimble and reliable data workflow backbone for their core PBM data services. Before Shaun takes it away, I would like to point out the chat feature that you can use to ask questions. And we'll do our best to answer them towards the end of the session. Without further ado, take it away, Shaun.
Thank you, David. My name is Shaun from Cooperative Benefits Group. Let's see here. And here's the slide. So we're automating data and app integrations from 0 to 60. There I am. Nice to meet you. So to kind of go through the agenda, we're going to take a look at who CBG is, what we do. We'll take a look at some of the challenges and opportunities that we had while going from 0 to 60. We'll also take a look at the overall CBG architecture. And once we go through that, we'll take a look at 3 different use cases. The first being ETL for core PBM services, CICD, and then claim history bot for service teams. After that, we'll take a look at some of the business outcomes that came from all of this, as well as some tips and best practices. And then, like before, we'll open up to Q&A at the end. So without further ado, we'll continue. So who is Cooperative Benefits Group? We're a small startup that wants to redefine how organizations handle pharmacy benefit management. To do that, we partner with forward-thinking entities who strive for excellence in delivering the pharmacy experience and provide a pathway to pharmacy benefit management ownership. What that means is we want to empower our partners to take ownership of the products and services that they offer their members, creating a more streamlined and member-centric approach. As a startup, as you can imagine, we had to ramp up quickly in order to meet our client and regulatory deadlines. To do that, we were able to use and leverage SnapLogic's vast library of snaps to build clinical, operational, and digital applications and automated solutions. We had a lot of challenges, needless to say. And I can say with certainty that SnapLogic was at the center of the solutions for those challenges. For example, we have frontline call center agents that use claim bots that leverage various SnapLogic pipelines. Over in analytics, we're building fraud, waste, and abuse reports that are required based off regulatory requirements, again, using SnapLogic pipelines. We've built various applications and APIs, again, using SnapLogic. At CBG, data is key. And to ensure we have the data we need when we need it, we use SnapLogic for all of our file loads and extracts, covering everything from eligibility to claims to accumulators. All of our shared services teams, all of our call center agents, our business partners, everyone uses all of these opportunity zones that you see above. So everyone from the frontline center call center agent down to HR utilizes SnapLogic in some way, either through direct interaction or through one of these applications. And last but not least, compliance and security. Everyone is concerned about security these days. And we've able to use SnapLogic to create a number of pipelines that not only protect our member information by masking data within tables, but we're also able to purge and back up data on a regular basis using pipelines. So let's take a look at the high-level business architecture that we employ over at CBG. Again, first and foremost, SnapLogic is a core piece of everything that we've done. We had to build an infrastructure that connected multiple service teams across multiple vendors. As you can imagine, we've got files coming in, files going out. We've got call center agents querying data, talking with members on the phone, different things like that. So we had a number of different things that we had to ramp up really quickly. On top of all that, we had to build over 30 file interfaces with varying data formats and transport methods. Again, as a startup, we didn't want to have a whole lot of tech debt. So when we built this, we built it with a configuration-driven automation structure. We opened our doors in early 2020, and we had to be production ready by 5/1. So when I say we went from 0 to 60 in a short amount of time, we really did. And as you can see in this tangled web, we have a number of different interfaces, both internal and external. And again, SnapLogic is an integral piece of that tangled web. Taking a look at a high-level look at our architecture, we employ multiple cloud providers as SaaS tools. We needed an ETL tool that can integrate easily with our other SaaS tools that we were leveraging, such as Azure, Google Cloud, AWS. And for the most part, we all came from an SSIS background. So we took a look at that. We took a look at a number of different ETL tools. But for us, being able to leverage Postgres, Dynamo, and a lot of the different AWS services we were using right out of the box using SnapPacks was really a game changer for us, and essentially helped us align on SnapLogic as our chosen solution. As you see here, it's a little lower, but again, SnapLogic at the center of this entire architecture. Because again, it does integrate seamlessly. It can pull S3, it can query Aurora, it can query Postgres, it can do a number of different things right out of the box with SnapPacks. I wanted to say that all of this that you see here, this entire architecture, this infrastructure, was done in 5 months by a 2-person team, 1 developer, 1 cloud architect. All of that done with the help of SnapLogic. Very powerful. So let's take a look at the first use case for CBG, which was ETL for core BBM services. Like I mentioned before, data is king for us. If we don't have the data, we don't have eligibility data, we don't have claim data, we don't have a company. So it's critical that we have a solution that can process multiple files daily, weekly, monthly, any given time. So we had some pretty lofty goals for ourselves. Again, we had to accomplish in a short amount of time. We needed to build an infrastructure that could handle anything that we threw at it, whether we wanted to ramp up. We're actually going through adding more clients to our system now, leading up to our 1/1 go live. So the system that we created uses 3 different types of ways to trigger off a pipeline. We can use scheduled tasks, we have triggered tasks, we also have a load driver. So the way the scheduled task works is we utilize the same system within SnapLogic and says, okay, I want to run this pipeline at 12 a.m. every day. What that does is it'll pull a config table that we have in AWS, and this config table contains all of the required input parameters to actually run the child pipelines. These input parameters could be anything from a file name or an S3 bucket location that we're going to be dropping a file to, or could be any number of different things. Within this table, we'll also have the type of pipeline that we're running, whether it's an extract, a load, or a transform. So this overall architecture really allowed us to streamline pipelines together as an overall workflow. In addition, these pipelines can also be kicked off using triggered tasks called by APIs, which we'll go through in a little bit. So to take a look at that scheduled task again, the way it'll work is once the time hits, a job will kick off that actually generates a log entry into a table so we can keep track of everything that's run. Once the execute driver runs, it actually executes that child pipeline. Once all of the business logic is done, it generates another log entry indicating whether it was successful or if there was an error. So some examples of our pipelines that we use for scheduled tasks We can back up data. We can mask PHI or PII. We can generate eligibility extracts. We can generate any number of regulatory extracts that are required by law. All scheduled, all automated, zero manual intervention. Trigger tasks are a little bit different, and these are the type of tasks that we would, again, leverage an API to call, which, again, we'll go over in a minute. But the process is pretty much the same. A job kicks off, log gets entered, pipeline is run. If log is updated again, if it's successful or if an error is thrown. And again, some example of these would be a bot or maybe a report that needs to be run. The load driver on the right is a little bit different. What happens with that one is there's actually a process that checks our S3 buckets for the presence of a new file. As you can imagine, we get files from our clients, we get files from regulatory agencies that contain pharmacy information, provider information, things like that. Once the driver finds that file, again, the process kicks off again. Log entry is created. The pipelines kick off, first one to actually load the data into a staging table. Once that's done, another pipeline will kick off to actually transform the information and drop it into our master table. So some example of load driver pipelines would be eligibility file intake, provider file intake, things like that. And in every one of these cases, once the pipeline completes, an email is generated to the group. Successes are great. In the event that there's actually an error, we can go in, the email itself will tell us what happened with the pipeline, and we can go in, take a look at it, and fix it. Overall, we have about 100 plus pipelines in production currently with 30 different integrations with various internal and external users. And up till now, we've had a 99% success rate with our executions with a 99% uptime. On average, we're seeing about 1,000 plus executions per day between our load jobs, our API calls, and our bots. So again, this infrastructure created a really robust system that can handle everything we throw at it. Whether it's call center agents getting information, files being loaded, or files being extracted. Moving on to our second use case, which is CICD. As you can imagine, as a startup and going from 0 to 60 in such a short amount of time, we had to employ some manual processes that we may or may not be proud of. When creating 30 plus interfaces in 5 months, you got to do what you got to do. One of those manual processes was actually deploying our pipelines from our dev folders into our production folders. As you can imagine, rushing causes errors. So post go live, we needed to automate some of these manual processes, and again, SnapLogic was able to allow us to do that, utilizing a combination of GitHub actions and steps. As I mentioned previously, we're a small team and we wanted to build everything around CICD, so SnapLogic was critical in allowing us to do that. We needed structured reviews and approvals that not only stood up to our internal controls, but also that would stand up to external auditing and SOC controls. The way the process works is a developer will build their pipeline within the dashboard. Once they're done, they'll actually download the .slp file. And what we do internally is we'll take that file and using VS Code, we run an NPM format to kind of clean it up so it's actually readable. Once that's done, we'll create a new branch within GitHub, and we'll create a pull request. And this is where the magic really happens. GitHub Actions kicks off and verifies that the file is good to go. It does some automated testing on the file to validate it. Performs various tasks like setting environment variables. It'll change production strings to or non-prod strings to production strings automatically. And also does some small validation. Once those actions are done, then peers can go in and review the pull request, and everything is good to go. They'll merge it. And finally, once that final merge is completed, GitHub will then take that SLP file and take it from our non-prod folder and drop it into our production folder automatically. So the outcome of that was it granted us speed and agility in automating cutting down errors drastically. Again, when you remove the human element from a process, you're going to have some savings. And again, SnapLogic allowed us to leverage these GitHub actions and steps to automate the production releases. I'm happy to say we have less errors. The third use case actually revolves around our call center agents. After going live in 2020, we immediately pivoted to what we can do to streamline our ops processes. Like I mentioned before, when we first started, a lot of the processes were manual. We have a service team of call center agents that are brilliant, but a lot of the processes that they had to do were manual. They had to go to separate systems to look up claim information, to look up accumulated information. These are all processes that had to be done with the member on the phone, drastically increasing the time that they actually spent on the phone, which obviously led to some unhappy customers. So what we did, we wanted to kind of streamline those processes, keep the call center agents within their chosen UI, and reduce the complexity of generating the claims history report. And again, as you can imagine, SnapLogic was at the center of that. As you can see here on this graphic, the call center agent within Teams will call a bot service, which then connects directly to API gateway, which then runs a Lambda service, which actually kicks off the SnapLogic pipeline. SnapLogic does the heavy lifting and returns the requested data to S3, where the CSR can then open and review with the member. So what that means is, we took a process where an agent had to log into this third-party application, look up the member information, and wait for that data to be returned. Now, what a process that took 5-10 minutes before happens in seconds. The member enters in the CSR enters in the member information, the data is returned, and they're able to complete the call. So we started with this claim history bot, and after it was so well received, we pivoted immediately and built 2 more bots covering healthcare eligibility and accumulator lookups, and which resulted in 3 highly resilient, scalable, cloud-native bots that covered everything that the call center agent needed to better service our members. So let's take a look at the outcome. Member interactions were reduced by 60 seconds. Again, our goal was 30, and we ended up reducing it by 60 seconds on average. And what that did was it actually saved, on average, 30 hours per month by reducing the manual efforts while looking up information during member interactions. And let's be honest with ourselves. We can build the greatest applications in the world, but if it doesn't cause or create value for our members, it's not going to matter. But I am happy to say that since deploying the 3 bots, we have improved member-focused experiences by 25%. And really, that's what matters. So we have these 3 bots. We've got more on our roadmap for 2022. And again, like I've said it before, SnapLogic is going to be an integral part of that. So we had a long journey that was condensed into 5 months. As you can imagine, we had a lot of learnings. So here's some of the tips and best practices that we learned. SnapLogic was and continues to be an integral part of our IT strategy for more than just ETL. And SnapLogic was flexible enough to let us use our legacy ETL approaches. Again, we all came from SSIS backgrounds. But using SnapLogic, it allowed us to build what we needed to do without locking us into so tightly as to prevent us from pivoting to new approaches in the future. We're able to take a look at an SSIS pipeline that we may have built in the past and apply that using SnapLogic methodologies. One thing we also recommend, and I can't say this enough, partner with your SnapLogic team. They're the experts. They're going to basically be able to tell you whether you can or cannot do something. So ask early and often. Ask your teams early and often. Can we do something in SnapLogic? Odds are you can. And more often than not, someone probably did it already and posted about it in the community forum. So definitely check out those as well, because there's a wealth of information at the click of a button. We actually, obviously, we purchased some AWS Snap Packs, but the core Snap Packs that are offered will allow us to get to about 90% of where we needed to be. And that's an amazing feat. To get to 90% complete with the core offerings is unheard of. More often than not, you have to have all these additional add-ons to do this or do that, which, again, we did get some for AWS, but with the core, we were able to get 90% there. One of the key things to remember, isolate your production loads. Don't commingle your production pipelines with your dev pipelines. And like I mentioned before, in our use case, you can easily do that using GitHub Actions and steps, but there are also other options out there if you don't want to use GitHub. And as you can see, SnapLogic, we're using SnapLogic for much more than just connecting data and applications. We have been able to create bots to improve member interactions, secure our member data with regularly scheduled masking jobs, and we're currently building a reporting process for fraud, waste, and abuse that will empower our business partners to get the data they need when they need it. We're doing all this and more with the help of SnapLogic. Thank you, and happy building. And with that, I'll turn it back over to David.
Thanks, Shaun. As Shaun mentioned, we encourage you to sign up for a free trial and check out the community. There's a lot of solutions mentioned there. I guess one question that came in, Shaun, was what were the benefits of using a single platform for both like your ETL and data automation, as well as your enterprise automation or APIs that were the backbone of the chatbot that you guys implemented?
Sure. Like I mentioned, we're a small team. So being able to leverage one SaaS solution for everything that we needed was really a game changer for us. Being able to, again, load data, extract data, being able to leverage, utilize pipelines to pull data from our databases into bots for our call center agents. We're able to do all of that in one solution. And for me, at least, that was a really big game changer.
Yeah, and I like how you mentioned, incorporating technology for the sake of technology isn't what we're trying to do here. The real benefits
Exactly.
And impact on not just you guys, but your customers, and the fact that it led to even more chatbots being developed is an interesting story on how we continue to grow there.
That's the reality. As developers, we can build these vast applications that do so many cool things, but if there's no value gleaned from it, why do we do it?
Cool. So to wrap things up, I hope everyone has enjoyed learning about how SnapLogic has helped cooperative benefits groups automate their enterprise solutions. We invite you to the next session where you can learn about how Komodo Holdings gains complete data insight with Snowflake and SnapLogic.
We're going to take more questions, or are we done?
Yeah, there's one that just came in. Do you use SnapLogic UI or any other tools to develop pipelines?
We actually use SnapLogic, the dashboard, exclusively to develop all of our pipelines, whether it's for loading files or getting data into an API.
And there's another one here that says you were SSIS people. Yeah, you can see it on your screen now. Can code in C#. Did you even need this capability after going to SnapLogic? So were you able to get off of that old infrastructure?
We were, yeah. When I mentioned that we came from SSIS background, we didn't use SSIS at all during this ramp up for this startup. We took some of the learnings that we had from those from SSIS background, but again, never used it at all. Some of those learnings, like obviously you can't run C# within SnapLogic, but we're able to employ things, snaps that allowed us to run, custom Python code and things like that if we needed to do some custom transformations. But again, no, we didn't use SSIS. All of our ETL and all of our infrastructure is all built off of a SnapLogic in AWS.
Yeah, and I think one great thing about the SnapLogic platform is even though it's a low-code, no-code UI, we keep the things that you still kind of need, which you alluded to, the CICD integration, so that you can still track stuff, roll back stuff, and track changes and collaborate in the SnapLogic space, which I think is critical to keep those kind of skills and kind of features in our product, even though it's a low-code, no-code solution.
Right, and even comparing SnapLogic to SSIS, we had SSIS packages in the past that transformed member eligibility. These processes would take 45 minutes running it from a laptop, whereas that's what we call a slowly changing dimension. We can do a SnapLogic in a few minutes, very